Hi, I'm Sarah from ZIPP. Today I want to talk about something that happens to all of us: flats. A bad puncture can halt a ride quickly. So today I want to go over some tips and tricks for roadside repair with tubeless systems that'll get you back in the saddle to finish the ride or safely on your way home. Depending on your setup and puncture, there are a variety of repair options that we'll discuss today.
First, make sure that you're in a safe and secure location out of traffic.
On a tubeless setup, a small hole can often be repaired with the installed sealant.
It's important that when you install tubeless tires on a tubeless wheel that you always use sealant. Sealant manufacturers often have a recommended duration to check or replace installed sealant. Make sure to check your sealant levels when recommended. The sealant helps to fill any small holes in the tire that might be permeable to air, in addition to filling any punctures that might happen while you ride. Many tubeless riders might never know about the punctures they get because the sealant is doing its job. However, you might get a puncture that does not seal up right away. In this case, after stopping, you can try finding the puncture and rotating the wheel so the puncture is at the bottom. This will allow sealant to pool around the puncture area and seal the hole. Shake the wheel around in a way that the sealant will contact the puncture and seal it. If too much air was lost before doing this, you might need to add some additional air pressure for the sealant to work and fill the puncture area. Once the puncture appears to be sealed, you can replace your proper air pressure and get back to riding. Sometimes the puncture is too large for sealant to fill and a plug may be needed. Plugs are available from a variety of manufacturers with different installation kits available. It's best to review and practice the specific installation procedure for your kit before you need to use it, but they all operate on the same basic principle. When you get a puncture that won't seal up with sealant alone, adding a plug can give the assistance needed by filling up additional space. First, it's good to clear any debris from the puncture area. This can be done by hand, and some kits will offer a tool that will help clear the puncture. Once you've done that, prepare the plug to be installed into the tire puncture. The key is not to push the plug all the way in, and to make sure that the plug stays in when you pull the tool out. Once the plug is installed, you can turn the puncture towards the bottom so any sealant can help fill the gaps around the plug. Again, you may need to add pressure to the tire at this point to help the sealant work. Once the puncture is sealed, inflate your tire to a rideable pressure. Note that if the plug is not flush with the tire, it can cause vibrations or some hop when riding. If possible, trim the plug flush to avoid this.
If a puncture is too large to repair with a plug, you can install a tube. Let's go over some tips when installing a tube on a tubeless setup.
You may have tubeless ready rims or tires, which have a tighter tolerance to ensure a better seal for air retention. This is great for holding the tire in the rim, but not so great when you're trying to make a repair. Getting the bead off and on the rim might be more challenging, so let's go over some useful techniques to ease the process and minimize frustration. After making sure that all the air is out of the tire, you'll notice that the tire bead may still remain in the sidewall. When removing the tire, it's important to focus on one bead at a time. Start on a small area and use your thumbs to pry the bead to break the seal between the bead and sidewall. Once the bead is loose, we can start working it off the wheel, starting from the valve. If it's too difficult by hand, grab a tire lever and start working the bead out of the rim, being careful not to damage the rim tape on the inside. While removing the first bead, be careful to leave the second bead in place. With one side of the tire off of the rim, we can prep for the tube install. If there's sealant in the rim, wipe it out if you have a towel, or install the tube with the sealant in the tire. The wheel can be cleaned up later, and sealant is easy to wash, so it's okay if you get some on you, your bike, or your shoes. Inspect the inside of the tire and rim for debris and clear it out, being careful of any sharp objects that could cause injury. We can also remove the valve core from the tubeless setup and store in a safe place. We can now install a tube and work on getting the bead of the tire back on the wheel. Fill the tube with just enough air so that it comes to shape and install it in the tire. Starting opposite of the valve, work the bead back into the rim, being careful not to pinch the tube between the rim and tire. Starting opposite of the valve gives you the most space in the rim well. As you move toward the valve, it's possible the bead will become tight outside of the rim and become difficult to complete. This is partially due to the stiffer beads on tubeless tires. It's a good idea to go back to the starting position and push the bead down into the well of the rim. This will provide some extra clearance to get the remainder of the bead into the rim. To do this, hold tension on the tire into the rim as you work around the wheel back to the valve. Pull down on the tire with both hands as you move toward the valve. This gives extra clearance needed to roll the tire bead over the rim at the valve. When the bead of the tire is back on the rim, we can massage the tire to get the tube in the right place to prevent pinch flats. Then we can fill with air, seat the bead back into the rim, and get moving again.
We hope that these tips help with roadside repair and get you back in the saddle. But please understand that every situation is unique and may require professional assistance. Consult with your local bicycle mechanic for help with recurring issues. Thanks for watching, and make sure to subscribe for more tips from ZIPP and SRAM. Happy riding!